That's the first time I've ever seen a decision holding that the government was obstructing justice.
Attorneys Tom Fisher, Jackie Terlahi, and Rachel Azuzu can't recall a single case where the Superior Court of Guam says the government has not only been obstructive, but also disobeyed court orders.
And then on top of that, they also basically created the circumstance so that people were left in a quarantine without being able to understand what their legal rights are. Kind of a horrible situation, at least the way the court describes it.
These co-counsels, who represent the several individuals that were stuck in a GovGuam quarantine facility, say the court's description is on point.
The decision actually outlined the behavior of the government through the Attorney General's office. To me, it's telling, and I think I can speak for my clients when I say that they feel now, almost a year later, that justice is being realized, that their freedoms were infringed upon, and basically they had to silently suffer for days. At some point, there was a 14-day mandatory quarantine in these facilities.
The decision and order came down last week with Superior Court Judge Elise Iriarte standing behind her ruling to award attorney fees to the petitioners who were forced into a government quarantine facility. In the decision, the court criticized public health for shortcomings and highlighted how it's been over a year and DPHSS has yet to develop a public health emergency plan to implement a mechanism for the appointment of counsel at the government's expense. Attorney Azuzu recalls the first quarantine case.
The decision actually states that the case of Robert Shaw was the first kind of case that came before the court after the Philippines petition back in April of 2020, and that was brought on by Attorney Fisher.
As KUAM reported last year, Robert Shaw, an active duty airman, was returning to Guam with a negative COVID test per DPHSS guidelines to attend his little brother's funeral. Shaw was placed in the quarantine facility after public health found out there was a COVID positive passenger on his flight. Attorney Fisher filed an emergency writ with the Superior Court demanding that public health show why their holding of Shaw is legal. That one case has been multiplied as these attorneys have filed numerous petitions on behalf of clients challenging the quarantine mandate. And due to the growing number of petitions, the court previously ordered the Public Service Defender Corporation to provide legal assistance to incoming travelers.
This decision didn't just say, well, the government was dragging their feet. This decision cited and noted that the government was actively working against the liberty interests of the people.
And by the end of this week, the Supreme Court of Guam will hear oral arguments regarding the quarantine cases, as the governor has filed a request for declaratory judgment on the extent of her enforcement powers and if the judicial and legislative branch have a say in the matter.